Welcome to Conscious Wellness with Lori Ellis. Hi, I'm Lori, your host. This is the show where we dig deep. We rise above the noise, clear the clutter, and find out what really works. The positive, effective, and sustainable ways to create a healthier, happier, and stronger life. And I'm so excited to bring you this episode because I know you'll find value that you can apply today. And if you haven't yet, please click on the subscribe button. Please rate and review. Thank you so much, and I'll see you inside the episode. Welcome to the second episode. I'm so glad you're here. First of all, I want to thank everyone for listening to episode 1 and for all the positive comments and messages I'm receiving. I'm so grateful, and thank you for the positive review and the 5-star rating and subscribing to this podcast. And it makes me happy that you're excited about this podcast and the vision of where this is going, and that we can show up together and have these discussions and learn together about simple ways to continue to improve our wellness in every area of our lives. And I'm just so excited to continue on this journey and this adventure together because it really is fun. And in this second episode, it's going to be just audio again. I will be doing video soon, as well as having guests, and I have a really incredible guest list. I'm so excited to share them, share their wisdom, their stories, and their inspiration with you, and to learn from them, and that will be happening soon. But in the meantime, you and I will have a conversation and a discussion today more about what conscious wellness is all about, because it is the foundation of how we can make simple changes that produce big results, and we can make new decisions that help us to create new habits and new routines and live a better life in all areas of our wellness. And I know we all want that, but just like we said in episode 1, if we don't change, nothing changes. And so often people are just not paying attention, and the days go by and the months go by and everything remains the same. And how many times have you heard someone say, I don't even know where that day went, or where does the time go, or the years are just flying by? And those are actually kind of negative things to say, because we really do bring about what we think about. And often we don't think about what we're thinking about. And the thoughts are just a pattern, and they're a habit, and they keep us stuck, and they keep us in a cycle. And it's important that we know that we can actually think about what we're thinking about. Because with that awareness, then we can decide if we want to continue those thoughts or not. And we talked about that in the first episode, and how repeating patterns of thought just keep us repeating cycles when it comes to every aspect of our wellness. Because the thoughts do determine our feelings, and our feelings determine really what we believe is possible, and those beliefs determine the actions that we take and how we show up every day. So we may not think we can choose our thoughts, but we actually can. We can become more aware, and it takes practice. We're just so programmed to repeat the same things unconsciously, living in that state of subconscious. And you know, the brain is so very interesting, and our thoughts and our mindfulness are very interesting, and they're actually two different things. So when I said we can think about what we're thinking about, that's because while we're observing our thoughts and thinking about what we're thinking about, we're using our mindfulness to observe our brain instead of just living in that state of subconscious and going through the motions without actively thinking about what we're doing or how we're feeling, and how that then affects our daily habits and our routines, and really can affect our health overall. In fact, there was an article published in Harvard Health that said this: mindfulness training improves one's aspect of thinking, their attention at the level of brain physiology. This means that by focusing on the present moment, cultivating mindful awareness towards sensations, and attending to the rising and falling of the breath, you can actually improve your brain's ability to direct your attention and accurately perceive the world. And then the author went on to say that by practicing cognitive skills such as mindfulness, you can literally change your mind, your brain, and your IQ. So this is really fascinating. And there's so much information now about neuroplasticity and epigenetics and all of these ways we can help ourselves through our thought patterns and by creating the way that we want to think and the way that we want to feel. So this is really fascinating. Let's think of some examples. So let's say you're trying to drift off to sleep, or you're wanting to be deep in prayer and you're trying to meditate, or you're just wanting to have some quiet time and relax and feel some peace, but you keep getting distracted, and not by things outside of you, but by your brain and by what you're thinking about. And the thoughts keep coming in and you feel like they're taking over. So this is what I'm talking about, because that can take us down an entirely different road, or it can keep us from feeling the peace and having time to rest. And first of all, we want to make sure that we are aware that this is what's happening, because if we're not aware of it, then we can't make any changes. And then the thoughts do take us over. And it's so interesting when we decide to become aware of the thousands of thoughts that rush through our brain every day. And when the thoughts come up, it's really interesting to see them. And it's interesting to see what triggers them when you do become aware of. You start to have a certain thought pattern and you think to yourself, with your mindfulness, you observe that thought pattern and you think to yourself, where did that come from? Was there a memory? What was the trigger that dug into the archives of my brain and brought up that memory or that thought? Because we all have all of this information downloaded in our brain. It's this massive computer that's downloading information at light speed through our eyes and our ears. And even what we hear without hearing it, that's called subliminal, right? And so even what we see in our peripheral vision, our eye is still picking it up and the brain is still processing, even if we didn't actually put our gaze and our focus on what it is. So the same is true for what we hear. It's like you're in a store, you're a grocery store, and you're shopping, and you're on your phone, or you're looking at your list, or you're even talking with a friend, or listening to a podcast, and there's music playing in the background of the grocery store, and you're not paying attention to it. You didn't realize your brain was picking it up. And then you get home and you're putting your groceries away, and you hear yourself humming the song out of nowhere. You've gotten yourself into a subconscious state where you're not mindfully as present, because you're going through the motions of putting groceries away that you've done 100 times, 1,000 times, and your body knows how to do it without you actively telling your body what to do. And so you get into the subconscious state and your brain picks up, the latest information that it downloaded, and you hear yourself humming that song, and you realize it then, and you think, where did that song come from? And why do I know the words? And that's exactly what I'm talking about. And it's an even deeper download when events and experiences come with an emotional attachment. So let's say it was a very happy moment, a surprising moment, or a very sad moment, or a scary moment. These memories will integrate even deeper into our brain. And sometimes they pop up in dreams, and sometimes it's just feels like a random memory that pops up and we don't understand necessarily why, but it's because we get into the subconscious state where we're not present and consciously thinking about what we want to think about. Because these neural pathways that are these roadmaps in our brain, this grid in this computer system, it's like a spider web of integrations of these loops of thought that have planted in the brain. And it's just like information on your hard drive in your computer. And the thoughts get triggered by something like a smell, or like we said before, an auditory cue or a visual cue. Let's say you smell a flower or a food, or this happened to me the other day, you smell a cologne. I was in a store and a couple walked by me, and the man had on a cologne, and that smell was so familiar to me. I knew I had smelled it before, and it instantly brought up a memory of a boyfriend back in high school. Now this was 40 years ago, over 40 years ago. But the memory came up like it was yesterday, and I felt it like it was yesterday, and I could see in my mind, I could see us on the school grounds in the stands watching a game, and I could feel the feelings in that moment. And it was so long ago, but that's how powerful the brain is. And this is why we want to understand this, because these feelings then affect our physiology, which can affect our health. Because our thoughts really do have power. And if we're not aware of the thoughts we're thinking, and we're not proactively thinking the thoughts we want to think as often as possible, because of course this isn't going to happen 24/7. But when we're not doing that as often as possible, then we can actually be causing ourselves to feel or I should say allowing ourselves to feel negative or sad without even realizing it, or fearful, by focusing on the thoughts that bring those emotions. And then those emotions can cause stress to the body. And that stress state, that fight or flight state that we can allow ourselves to get into, creates acid in the body. It floods the body with cortisol and adrenaline, and that's an inflammatory response. And if we stay in that state, we can actually keep allowing those contributors to inflammation to the cells of our body. So living in negative thought patterns really can contribute to sickness in the body. And so it's important to note that we can change that, and we can choose to think new thoughts through awareness and choose to spend time on certain memories or not. We get to actually press the stop button if we want to, if a memory comes up. But we can only do that if we're in a state of awareness. So knowing that the brain does what it does, it downloads information at light speed, and all this information is downloaded in the hard drive of the computer of your brain, and then certain things can trigger, and your brain will pull up from the archives these thoughts. And if they're not thoughts we want to think, and they're not memories that we want to remember, then in that state of consciousness, we can actually stop that, and we can turn that train around and decide to think new thoughts. And we do this through conscious programming. So this is another way to help improve your wellness through your thought patterns. And your thought patterns can be more positive. And it does take work. It takes consistency and practice, and it takes daily exercise. But what's really cool is we can harness this power to create better wellness for our lives, and we can be aware of what's happening. And we can know what's going on, and we can utilize this in our consciousness for creating better feelings, happier feelings. And it does feel good to reminisce with happy memories, to see that movie play in your mind and be transported back like it was yesterday. But the sad part is this can happen with a negative memory and a bad memory too. And if we're not aware in that moment, and we're not making a conscious decision to not continue to go down that negative road of thought, then we can get ourselves in that state of stress, like I spoke about before, or in a state of depression and sadness. And this is why it's important to talk about this, because again, we can utilize this awareness of our thoughts to become healthier, to create healthier habits, and to feel more hopeful and happy and excited. And all of this allows us to feel more energetic and do different things in our lives. We can create new thoughts about how we want to feel. And again, this takes practice. I'm going to give you 5 steps that I do every morning at the end of the podcast that you can do if it resonates with you. And you can do this every morning and throughout the day, and it can help you to strengthen a positive and proactive state of awareness. And we can do this every day. And just like we become stronger in the gym through repetition and consistency, there are simple things we can do every day that take 5 to 10 minutes. And then we utilize what we know, the things we know are happening in the brain. So the understanding and being aware of how it works, and this is what's going on, this gives us the knowledge, which gives us the power to be able to utilize this knowledge in a positive way. And we'll talk about those 5 steps in just a minute. But this is where it gets really exciting, because just like the brain will latch onto something from a visual cue or an auditory trigger or a smell, like I shared my experience, that connects instantly to something deep in your memory, and somehow in that moment, without even being aware, your brain recognized it, and then it dug through the archives of your memory, and it brought it up to your present consciousness. And all of a sudden, your memory is flooded with all these things that happened based on that one little trigger that brought up that one little loop of thought that was downloaded and implanted in the neural networks of your brain. And then because you thought the thought, the brain will start bringing up more as you access that archived information. And this is when it gets really interesting, because you're seeing these pictures in your mind like a movie playing behind your eyes. And that's your mindfulness. That's your ability to visualize and to see the thoughts as this vision, as this movie. You know, they can register your thought activity with a machine called an EEG, which is a technology that measures and records electrical activity in the brain using those electrodes that are attached to your scalp, right, on the outside of your head. Because your brain cells communicate through constant electrical impulses, and they're active all the time, even during sleep, because the brain is always processing. And this activity shows up as wavy lines on the EEG recording that we can all picture, that paper coming out of the machine showing those thought patterns, that brain activity, and they can track the brain energy because your thoughts are actual energy. And there is literally electricity firing with each thought, and an electrical impulse, a nerve impulse, a cellular reaction. And it's electricity. That neural synapse becomes this loop of thought. And it really is like a roadmap, and it's real, and it's so powerful. And when we can have this awareness and have a deeper understanding of what's happening, then we can intentionally utilize it to better our wellness and our whole lives. So we can use this mindfulness then to observe the brain, observe the thoughts, and decide which ones we want to think. And we can press stop, and we can redirect, and we can actually create the movie that we want to watch behind our eyes. We can have that picture in the brain that we want to see versus just random ones coming up and then taking us away in the day with feelings that we maybe don't want to feel and thoughts we don't want to have. So we can utilize this proactively to create these new thoughts and new pictures of what we do want. Because like I said, a lot of times those movies that come up aren't things we want to revisit. And like we talked about in the first podcast, if we want to make changes, we can't keep doing the same old things and thinking the same old thoughts. We've got to do something different. And we get the opportunity every day to reprogram the brain with new information, thinking something new, creating a new vision, and then visiting that vision and imagining clearly ourselves in that life, in that better wellness, in that better physical health, in that better financial position, or a stronger body, or a new geography, or whatever it is that you're wanting to do and create in this life, and things that you want to give. If you have a business that you want to create, you want to serve people, you want to help animals, visualize that, create those thoughts, feel the feelings of it already being there. So we visualize and we think about it and we create a new picture. And then that new picture gets downloaded in the brain, that new information, and that's mindfulness versus just brain activity. So we'll talk about this deeper with a lot of really amazing people that can explain it with their great examples and their experience as well. And with all the science that's available and all of this really cool information about how the body physically does this and how we can intentionally, with our mindfulness, make changes. There's so many ways that we can help ourselves to live better lives in every aspect of our wellness. And this applies to all areas of our wellness. So it's why we want to know the healthy tools and the positive modalities that work to be able to release the thoughts we don't want to think, because they're not ever going to go away. It's like what's downloaded on your computer, on your hard drive. And there are ways that we can dig it up and release them. And if they do still pop up once in a while, then you'll have the tools with which to keep those emotional triggers from actually bringing up all that information that you don't want to think about. And you'll be so busy proactively living in your present and in your future. And I heard someone say it this way, and when I remember who said that, I will give the credit, but they said, you can actually remember your future. And I love that, because we spend so much time remembering our past, and so often it takes us down a road we don't want to go and reminds us of things we don't want to remember. And that takes away time in our present. It takes away our awareness in now. And that's where our power is, the awareness of now and the awareness of where we want to be. And that's that vision. That's the mindfulness of creating our future through new thought patterns that create new feelings. And those feelings then give us a different belief system about life and about ourselves. And that new belief system then determines the actions that we take, because we will take different actions if we believe something is truly possible. And the truth is, everything is possible. So it really does apply to all areas of our wellness. And these tools, these healthy tools and these positive modalities that we can implement and put into place, they will work for you to be able to dig up the memories that might continue to pop up, even if we're doing the work and we're doing the exercises. We're human, and the human brain does what it does. So instead of getting lost in that and feeling like it's throwing us backward, we just then can realize in the moment, oh, this is what the brain does. Now let me use my tools that I have to keep that emotional trigger from actually taking me down that road that I don't want to go. And then it won't throw you out of your your awareness of the present. So when it comes to repeating cycles in your wellness, or being completely unconscious of the choices you're making and the way that they affect your health, your body, your relationships in general, it's so important to know that we can actually create those changes and exercise the strength of our awareness in the moment, and then utilize that to visualize what we do want, think about what we do want. And that is where I get really excited, because that's where things change for the better. And we can act as if the future that we want is already here. We can live in that moment. So you can get quiet and sit in a quiet, peaceful place away from distractions, and you can start thinking about what you want. You can write it down. You can even just start with happy words. You can start with what you're grateful for. This is a great way to begin this visualization and this healthy exercise practice of thoughts, of new thoughts and creating new thoughts. Start thinking about what you love now, what you appreciate, what you're grateful for. This is then going to improve the way that you feel. It's going to change your physiology, actually bring in happy hormones and release the stress response, release that cortisol and adrenaline, and flush that out of your body and allow yourself to feel good. Start thinking about where you want to be and what you want to be doing, and see yourself there. Who is there with you? What do you want your future to look like? Play that movie in your brain. Now your brain is downloading the information. You are thinking it, and your brain doesn't know the difference between what you're actually doing and what you're thinking in that movie you're creating. So you're affecting the operating system of your brain through your mindfulness, just like you can affect your operating system of your computer hard drive. So think about how we utilize the information in our computer by choosing what to download, and then we install our firewalls and our virus protection so that we're not, we're keeping bad things from coming in, hopefully, and it's going to block the negative things that could harm your computer. And it's actually looking them up and getting rid of them. And then there's a couple of other cool features on your computer where we have the delete button and we have the trash button. So we can actually also stop things from coming into, like your email, and they go directly to spam, so they're never even in your awareness. And these are ways that we can help our computer system to be healthier and to operate healthier. And it's a really practical tool, and we can do the same thing with our thoughts, our thought patterns, just like we do with our computer. So I'll give you these 5 steps to do today. You can do them every morning, and you can get into this state of intention and this state of awareness for better wellness in your thought process. And it's like we're installing those operating systems in our brain, just like we do in our computer. And it's just like building a muscle. It's just like working out. It's just like giving your body good hydration and good nutrition. We can preempt the day and proactively get ourselves set up for a healthier day with our thoughts. We can remember our future as we want it to be, instead of just letting the day lead us in that 95% subconscious, like I talked about in the first episode. So let's go back to the computer for a second, because we can delete an email, right? Or we can delete something, we can delete a program and we send it to trash, and then we can go to our trash and we can click that empty trash button, and something still might sneak through. It might pop up once in a while, even though you've put up the right barriers and the right operating systems and you've cleaned out your computer and you've got these systems in place. But sometimes things can still sneak in, things that we don't want, because they are attached to other things and it's outside of our awareness in that moment. So just like we do a computer scan and we clean up our operating system, we can do the same thing with our thoughts. We can become more conscious of what we think about, and that allows us to catch those things that sneak in and cause us to feel certain feelings that maybe we don't want to feel. Let's say we're stuck in a bad mood, or we're feeling really sad, or all of a sudden we're nervous and we don't know why, or we're fearful because an old thought came up and reminded us of something that we were afraid of. And then that energy is so strong, it creates these feelings. And it could have just been a random thought or some kind of an audio cue or a visual cue that triggered an old memory or an old program thought. And it created these feelings. And if we don't have the awareness in the moment to turn that around, that energy is going to attract like energy, and we will find ourselves having a bad day. But at any moment we get to turn it around, because it really does go like this. Your thoughts determine your feelings, and your feelings determine your beliefs, and the way that you believe determines how you act, the actions that you take, and that the habits and the actions we take determine our lifestyle. So if we allow ourselves to think a lot of negative thoughts, we're going to feel really negative, and then we're going to be really low on this emotional scale, and that's a very low vibrational energy, which attracts even more low vibrational energy. So our thoughts affect our feelings. It also affects our physiology and our actual physical health. So this determines what we're going to allow into our lives based on our awareness of how we're thinking and how we're feeling and how that's playing out. So let's build on that for a minute. Based on your level of belief, what actions are you going to take? Are you going to feel like going to the gym if you're in that low vibrational energy? Are you going to feel like making yourself a healthy dinner? Are you going to feel like taking that next step for your business? Are you going to feel like being kind to the people in your life, your loved ones? Are you going to feel like putting your energy out there if you don't feel it? So I say this often, we can't give away what we don't have. And if we're really low on this energetic scale with our feelings, we're not going to take action about anything very positive. We won't feel like much is possible, and that will keep us stuck. Now let's take the opposite route. Let's get up in the morning and let's proactively predetermine our thoughts for the day. Just like we pick out the clothes we want to wear and the food we're going to eat for breakfast, we're going to pick out the thoughts we want to think. When we decide to become aware of our thoughts and we realize the brain is this big computer holding information, and with consciousness, we can think new thoughts and reprogram the brain with new information. We can realize we're not stuck. And we don't have to allow our subconscious to rule our day and the past to rule our present, and especially not our future. The brain is so powerful, constantly in motion. Thoughts are always there. But when we take a few moments in the morning to deliberately think about the thoughts we want to think, and not just think them, but also write them down on paper if you can, read them out loud, pray on them, meditate on them. Now we're planning our day. We're creating the feelings we want to feel. And that is going to jump us up higher on the emotional scale. And then that higher energy, that high vibrational energy, is going to attract even more positive energy. We're going to feel excited and confident and empowered. It's a much higher vibration, and this is going to allow us to take different actions. And it's so important to have this time where you go within and consciously think about the things you want to think. So as you're listening to this, you may have other applications open on your phone or your computer. You may be walking or exercising or driving and doing other things, because we're always multitasking. I'm just glad you're here and you're listening and you're here with me. But take a moment right now to intentionally and deliberately focus on a happy thought. Even if you just think the word happy, just see it in your mind and think it. Now think of who makes you happy. Now think of what makes you happy. And now think of the word appreciation. And think about what you appreciate and who you appreciate. And now think about what you're so grateful for right now. You can put your hand on your heart and be grateful for your heartbeat. You can think about your family, think about your career, think about what you're able to give to this world and how you make a positive difference. We call this your gratitude list. And you start this in your brain by thinking about what makes you happy and what pleases you and what you love and who you love and what you appreciate. And then you write it down on an actual list. And I'm sure you've heard about this and how amazing it is, but have you actually done it? And if you've done it, have you been consistent and continued? Because a lot of us just aren't consistent in our practices. We start something and then again, those old thought habits, those old patterns, they come up and they whisk us back into our old patterns. And so we've got to become, let me rephrase that, we get to become consistent in how we choose to spend our time and how we choose to show up in the present moment. And it all starts with our thoughts. Changing the habit of anything, even our thinking, takes an exercise routine. It's like changing our habits with our food or our water and showing up for our wellness. It begins with the consistency of implementing those new habits. So we're climbing the ladder on the emotional scale when we're grateful and we're happier and we're more hopeful and excited, and we start to believe that this is going to work and it's going to be great. And then it becomes this powerful circle of positivity. And when you continue this, your body will respond physiologically as well with these happy hormones. And you'll start to feel better, and you'll actually start to help your body to become healthier. You will help your body to begin to do its renewing, regenerating, balancing, and reducing that stress state and reducing the contributors to the inflammation. And, athletes do this before a game. This is really important. People do this before important meetings. They practice mindfulness. They practice their vision. They see it and they play it out the way that they want it to be. And there's so many examples of this. There was a study in the University of Chicago where the coach split people into 3 groups and tested their free throw ability and improvement. And he had one group practice their free throws every day for an hour. The second group just visualized, just created those movies in their brain, visualized themselves making free throws. The third group did nothing, and after 30 days, he tested them. The first group improved by 24%. The second group improved by 23% without even touching a basketball. And the third group, of course, didn't improve at all, which was expected. But that study on those 3 different groups was incredible because the second group that just visualized did almost as well as that first group who was out there actually practicing. So it shows the power of our thoughts. And we really can help ourselves to bring better health and happiness and more abundance and more joy and more generosity and even more time. And how can thoughts bring us more time? Because think about this, if we're truly aware of our thoughts and conscious in our actions during the day, we will waste less time. How many times do we get on social media or, watch Netflix and 2 hours and 3 hours have passed because we've been distracted by what's going on outside of us? And instead of being intentional about our time and what we feel inspired to do. So most of us have become very aware of what's going on around us, and we've developed this habit of paying attention to everything going on outside of us, and we're less aware of what's going on within. And that's a conditioning. That's an unconsciousness. It's living in a subconscious state. And that's the exact reason to start having a mindfulness practice and deliberately creating the thoughts we want to think. And it's important to make sure that what we are allowing ourselves to hear and see in these conscious states are positive. And it's also the people that we're around, the discussions that we're having, the groups we're involved with, and who we're spending our time with. And we'll talk about a lot of this in future episodes because curating our discussions and our groups and our communities is really valuable in helping ourselves to stay in this positive trajectory of being positive in the present moment and stay in this positive, proactive state of mind. And having others encourage you and having others in the same place of wanting to improve and wanting to be healthier and live better wellness in every area of our lives. So when we're surrounded by positivity and hope and excitement and people looking to rise higher and looking to reach their vision as well and live a better version of their lives and become more generous and abundant and prosperous and healthier and taking these action steps, collaborating with each other, encouraging each other. It's knowing that there's more than enough for everyone, and that helps us all to rise. So getting in these rooms, sitting at these tables and having these conversations, it's different, and the thoughts are different, and the energy is different, and the belief is different when the awareness is on the positive, when the awareness is on what's possible, and the awareness is on building the vision and building the dream, and not just in recycling the past or complaining or living in resentment or the what ifs. Instead, that energy can be changing our thoughts to what we want to think about, what we want to feel. And so this is growth, and this is where it's really fun. Okay, here are the 5 steps. We'll talk about all of this because there's so much more to say. Clearly, there's so much more to talk about in all of these topics, and I'm really excited to continue to dig in and continue to learn how to improve and rise higher and continue to become more so that we can give more, because that's the ultimate fulfillment, right? Is giving more in this world. Okay, here's the 5 steps to do every morning. These are ones that I do, and if they resonate, you might enjoy these. This is how I help myself get on the path to more positive thought in the morning. And remember, a habit is just something that we do over and over, and it becomes a routine. So we can start a more positive routine because this becomes an autopilot programming. So the first thing I do in the morning when I wake up is I make a conscious statement that I'm awake. I say, I'm awake. It's a new day. So when you wake up, you take a breath and you look around and you say, I'm awake. It's a new day. Number 2 is then we get more of that breath. You can do a breathing practice. So I do one called boxed breathing. There's a lot of different breathing practices out there, so find one that you like. I like this one. So I breathe in for 3 or 4 seconds, and then I hold that breath for 4 seconds. And then I breathe out for 4 seconds, and then I hold my lungs empty for 4 seconds. And I do this 3 or 4 times. So again, breathe in to the count of 4, hold the breath for the count of 4, breathe out for the count of 4, hold your lungs empty for the count of 4. And do this nice and slow, controlled, very focused breathing. And if you notice thoughts rushing in and all of the to-dos on your list for today, just allow them to float by like clouds in the sky. Don't attach to them. Just release them and stay focused on your breathing. All right, third step is you get up and you get a great big glass of water because now your body needs hydration. So during the night, your body has been detoxing and rebalancing and renewing and regenerating and resting and healing and all the wonderful things the body does while you're sleeping. And now it needs to be replenished with hydration. So get a great big glass of water and drink a full glass of water before you do anything else, before you have your coffee or your breakfast. This is hydrating your body and replenishing your blood volume and helping your brain. Your brain is about 80% water, and all of the things the brain is doing every day requires water, just like all of the trillions of cells in your body and all of their functions require water because you are primarily made up of water. So replenish that water. Number 4, sit down somewhere quiet. And it doesn't have to take a long time, but sit down somewhere where you can have no television and very few distractions. And this can take about 5 or 10 minutes is all. And this is where you start to think about what you want to think about. You think about the happy words. You start with your gratitude list. You say thank you. And you get this energy flowing and this positivity flowing. And you think about what you appreciate and what you love and who you love. And then you start thinking about how you want your day to be. And this is when I pray, and this is my meditation, is visualizing what I want, appreciating the present, being grateful for the present and everything that is now, while visualizing what I want in the future. If you have a meeting that day, you can visualize that meeting going great. If you have an appointment, you can visualize that appointment with positive results. And whatever that is, you visualize that and you think about this happy, positive day and these positive outcomes. And you allow your mindfulness to focus on what you want to focus on. And you can continue to breathe normally and slowly. You can allow yourself to just sit in the silence. And if the thoughts come in, because they will, just again, allow them to float by like clouds in the sky, or watching them just float by, giving them no attention, and then go back to intentionally thinking the thoughts that you want to think. Choose them like you choose the clothes you wear for the day. You can say them out loud, focusing on your breath, your heartbeat. Enjoy the peace. Enjoy the vision, the picture in your mind of what you want for your life. See that movie in your mind and enjoy the silence and the peace that you're having with yourself, going within yourself, because this is all happening within your heart. In fact, I like to place my hand on my heart. I put one hand on my heart and one hand on my belly, and I connect to my soul. I connect to my heart, and I listen and I pray. And I say these positive words and I think these positive thoughts and I visualize and see it happening and see myself there and enjoy the feelings and let the feelings wash over you. While you're breathing, let the feelings, those happy feelings, wash over you. And the last step is then to write down your empowered intention for the day. Write down. That act of writing pen to paper is so important. And give yourself reminders to revisit what you've written down every single day, to remind you to go back into that conscious state of awareness of thinking those thoughts you want to think. And you'll continue then to exercise that reprogramming of your brain, and you'll be actually downloading new thoughts, new thought patterns, new neural pathways, new roadmaps, and these will download and plant in your brain, and we're creating this new way of thinking. It's creating new feelings. It's creating new beliefs, and these new beliefs then will allow you and empower you truly to take different actions. You will find yourself excited about doing these things that will improve your wellness in every area of your life. And you'll find yourself making positive lists throughout the day, and you'll find yourself implementing these thoughts and these actions, and that's when life begins to change for the better. That's how new habits are formed and new routines and new lifestyles. So isn't it exciting that we get to choose at every moment? We get to choose how we feel, what we want to think. And again, the brain does what it does. And we are human after all, and things will pop up and things will sneak by. But now we have this new awareness because we are consciously exercising and strengthening this consciousness in the moment of what we're thinking about. And with our mindfulness now, we have exercises and tools, which again, we will speak more of, exercises and tools then to help us to move into a more positive thought pattern and get back into what we do want for our lives and being grateful for the present while we are excited and planning and curating and visualizing the future and staying in that really high vibration and that positive space and attracting more of that. And it opens up an entirely new life, an entirely new way of looking at life and ourself and our bodies and our wellness and our future and the world. And it allows us to step into that space of becoming more generous with our energy because, again, we can't give away what we don't have. So when we allow ourselves to take that time within and build and strengthen those new thoughts and new beliefs and new actions, then we have more to give away. And you came here to give big things to the world. And I believe that with my whole heart. And I'm excited to continue on this adventure and continue to learn and continue to unfold all this wonderful, empowering information that we can all implement into our lives today. So thank you for being here. I so appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. I'm so happy you were here for this episode of Conscious Wellness. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And if you like this show and you feel you're receiving valuable information and tools that you can apply to your life today, please share this with a friend. We want everyone to feel excited and intentional about their future. And we want you to get up every day feeling empowered to take positive action steps toward better wellness. If you haven't already, please subscribe and please rate and review. We're so grateful. And send us your questions. Let us know what topics you want to learn more about. You can send a message to info@elliswellness.com or the contact form at elliswellness.com where you can also sign up for the newsletter. Thank you so much. Now go out there and have an amazing day.